In 2014, 14-year-old Alice Gross disappeared from West London. What began as a missing person case soon turned into a tragic murder investigation that shocked the nation. Welcome to Old Casebook. Today, we examine the heartbreaking case of the murder of Alice Gross. The last few weeks have been completely heartbreaking. There isn't a single moment in the day when we don't think about Alice, where she is, what might have happened to her, or why she hasn't come home. It's almost impossible to describe the pain we feel. We just want her to know that if she's out there somewhere, please, Alice, come home. And if anyone has any information about her movements that day, or about where she might be now, we beg you to come forward and speak to the police. Help bring her home, because that's where she belongs. She needs to be here with us. Alice Poppy Madeline Gross was born on Valentine's Day in 2000 in London, England. She lived in Hanwell with her parents, Rosalind and Jose, and her sister, Nina. Alice was incredibly creative, with a natural talent for art and design. She loved music and singing, could play both the piano and the violin, and often wrote and performed her own songs. She had a bright spirit and a gentle nature. On the 28th of August, 2014, at around 3 p.m., Alice left her home to go for one of her usual walks along the river. She told her parents she would be back by 6 o'clock. This was something she did regularly, and she was always careful to return on time. Later that afternoon, she sent her father a text message saying she was on her way home and wouldn't be long. Alice was known for being responsible and punctual, so when 7 p.m. came and went and she still hadn't returned, despite sending that message, her parents immediately felt that something was terribly wrong. Her phone was no longer ringing, and that silence only deepened their fear. Alice was just 14 years old. She had been diagnosed with anorexia and depression, and although she and her family were seeking treatment and support, her parents feared the worst. They worried that perhaps she had collapsed somewhere during her walk. Without hesitation, they reported her missing. Police officers, along with Alice's family and friends, began searching the area where she was known to walk. They combed the riverside paths and nearby streets, but found nothing. The case was assigned to Detective Superintendent Carl Meter, who quickly realized that this was deeply concerning. The investigation was moving quickly, and it wasn't long before the story reached the media. As coverage spread, witnesses began coming forward, reporting individual sightings of her. Using this information, police were able to track down relevant CCTV footage, which confirmed those reports. Just before 4 p.m., she was captured on camera walking along the Grand Union Canal. Then, at a location known as Brentford Lock, not far from where she lived, she was seen again. At 4:26 p.m., another camera showed her walking along the canal under a bridge called Trump's Way, heading back in the direction of her home in Hanwell. But after that moment, there were no more sightings. A few days later, with still no solid leads, her family made a desperate public appeal. They spoke directly to her, saying, "We love you, we miss you, we want to know if you're safe, and we want you to come home. We know that maybe you've been going through some difficult times, but we want you to remember the happy moments we've shared as a family and the lively, beautiful person you are." They urged anyone with information about Alice's whereabouts to contact the police on 101. They explained that she was a vulnerable young girl and asked people to come forward if they knew of any plans she might have had, anyone she had spoken to online, or anyone who knew where she might be. Above all, they pleaded for confirmation that she was safe. Realizing the case required more than a local search, Detective Superintendent Meter escalated it by handing it over to Scotland Yard's Homicide and Major Crime Command. The public quickly mobilized to help. The hashtag #FindAlice spread across social media. Voluntary search parties worked morning, noon, and night, and 4 ribbons appeared throughout the town to raise awareness for the missing girl. On the 4th of September, almost a week after she was last seen, police made a significant discovery. Along a footpath by the River Brent, they found her backpack. Inside were her personal belongings, including the shoes she had been wearing. However, there was still no sign of Alice or her phone. Even so, this was a major breakthrough, as it gave investigators a specific area to focus on. Police released the previously obtained CCTV footage to the public, clearly showing the backpack and shoes, and urgently appealed for witnesses who might have seen the bag. Because Alice had been struggling with depression, investigators had to consider the possibility of suicide. With 600 officers from 8 different forces involved, this became the largest deployment of Metropolitan Police officers in a search operation since the London bombings in 2005. Officers reviewed hundreds of CCTV cameras, and a reward of £20,000 was offered for information that could help locate her. Using divers and sniffer dogs, police launched a massive search operation covering 9 square miles of woodland and nearly 4 miles of water. It was a painstaking task. They combed through thick woodland and searched the murky waters with meticulous care. Yet, despite their efforts, there was still no sightings and no trace of Alice. Phone data analysis revealed that when she sent a message to her father saying she was heading home, she had been right by the River Brent. Detective Superintendent Meta ordered another search of the area, convinced there was more to uncover. As the days passed, the theory of suicide became less convincing. Forensic experts explained that when a body enters water, it initially sinks. As decomposition begins, bacteria produce gases that cause the body to rise back to the surface. If she had drowned, her body likely would have been discovered by then. If she was in the water, it was possible she was being held down by something. Investigators then searched the missing persons database for the area and made an interesting discovery. A 41-year-old man named Arnis Solkins, originally from Latvia, had also been reported missing. He had been living in Ealing for around 7 years and working as a builder. When he failed to return home from work, his partner contacted the police. As detectives continued reviewing the CCTV footage, this new development added another layer of mystery to an already troubling case. They saw a middle-aged man on a bicycle pedaling behind Alice as she crossed the bridge, only a few minutes behind her. At some point, he surely would have passed her. He was later spotted again on another camera, crossing a busy road and cycling onward. At first, there seemed to be nothing unusual. But when police examined the timeline more closely, they noticed something troubling. The journey from the bridge to the main road should have taken only a few minutes. Instead, it had taken him nearly 45. The man on the bike was formally identified as Arnis Zalcans. The very cameras used to trace Alice's final movements were now painting a far darker picture. CCTV footage showed Zalcans returning to the area where Alice was last seen, twice within 12 hours. He went back at 7:45 p.m. and did not re-emerge until 8:50 p.m. on the evening of the 28th. This time, he was wearing different clothes. He returned yet again just before 7 a.m. on the 29th. Further footage showed him entering a shop around 8 p.m. on the 28th, calmly purchasing beers. Detective Inspector Andy Chalmers and his team headed to Zalcans' property in Ealing to begin a search. As they conducted a background check, their worst fears were realized. Zalcans had previously been convicted of murder. In Latvia, he had beaten and stabbed his wife to death, burying her in a shallow grave. He served 7 years in the Latvian prison. Then, in 2009, just 2 years after arriving in London, he carried out a violent assault on a 14-year-old girl near the same canal where Alice disappeared, only 2 miles away. At the time, it was not Scotland Yard's policy to carry out the level of international background checks that exist today. His violent past in Latvia never came to their attention. The young girl did not make a formal statement, and he was never prosecuted. 4 weeks into the search for Alice, police reconstructed her final route. An actress dressed in identical clothing walked the same path in the hope that someone might remember seeing her. No detail was too small. Every possible lead was vital. By now, Detective Chalmers and his team were certain they were hunting a killer. But Zalcans had vanished. Officers feared he may have fled the country. Then, on September 30th, 5 weeks after Alice was last seen, a devastating discovery was made. Commander Greg McNulty of the Metropolitan Police addressed the public, confirming that during a search of the River Brent, officers had recovered a body. A day later, it was officially identified as Alice Gross. The scene was harrowing. Alice had been found unclothed apart from a single sock. Her body was tied in a fetal position, wrapped in bin bags, weighed down with bricks and logs, and secured to a bicycle wheel beneath the water. Forensic analysis revealed she had died from asphyxiation. A cigarette butt recovered at the scene carried Zalcans' DNA. His DNA was also found on Alice's shoes and inside her backpack. During the search of his property, officers discovered the back panel of Alice's iPhone 4S buried beneath his patio. 4 days after Alice's body was found, police located Arnis Zalcans. He had taken his own life, hanging himself in a secluded wooded area of Boston Manor Park in Hounslow. Investigators believe he encountered Alice while cycling, attacked her in a violent manner, and killed her before repeatedly returning to conceal her body. It was a chilling and tragic conclusion. Police confirmed that had he been found alive, there was more than enough evidence to charge him with her murder. On October 23rd, 2014, Alice was laid to rest. Her family, friends, and community finally had the chance to grieve. In the aftermath,
her family fought tirelessly for changes to background check procedures for individuals entering the United Kingdom. As a result, policies were reviewed and strengthened. Staffing within the Criminal Records Office increased, and requests for international criminal record checks rose significantly. Today, the vast majority of foreign suspects are thoroughly vetted. Alice Gross was a talented, vibrant, and creative young girl. Her life was taken far too soon, but her warmth, her energy, and her love of life remain unforgettable. The loss of Alice Gross remains a painful chapter for her family and community. Though justice was pursued, the tragedy can never be undone. Thank you for watching Old Casebook. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more true crime stories. Until next time.